Formal incident briefings. Verified video proof. Direct accountability. Welcome to Bodycam Incident Reports.
Step away from the vehicle. Put the case on the ground, now!
Officer, be careful. This is high-end cinema glass. It's fragile.
I said drop it! Get on the ground!
I can't just drop it. It's worth 100.
Stop resisting! Hands behind your back!
At 7:30 a.m., Kevin White stood at the curb of Fifth Avenue behind his silver Honda Civic. He wore a gray hooded sweatshirt, dark canvas pants, and sneakers. A black lanyard hung around his neck, holding a laminated credential card. On the concrete next to his foot sat a black Pelican 1650 protector case. Inside, suspended in high-density foam, was a rented set of vintage Cook Pantro cinema lenses. The total weight was 65 pounds. Kevin slid the extension handle down, gripped the two side handles, and lifted the case to waist level toward the open trunk of the Honda. Before we see how a split-second profiling decision triggers a $100,000 insurance nightmare, drop a like, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments what city you are watching from today. A Ford Police Interceptor utility swung toward the curb, blocking the Honda's exit path. The emergency roof lights were off. Officer Brian Thompson pushed the driver's side door open and stepped out onto the street. He kept his right hand resting flat over the retention hood of his holstered 9mm weapon. "Step away from the vehicle," Thompson ordered. "Put the case on the ground, now." Kevin stopped moving. He held the case mid-air. "Officer, be careful," Kevin said. "This is high-end cinema glass. It's fragile. I need to set it down slowly." Thompson walked quickly toward the car. He did not look at the credential hanging from Kevin's lanyard. He looked at the old vehicle and the heavy equipment case. "I said drop it," Thompson shouted. "Get on the ground." Kevin did not release his grip. He began to lower the case toward the asphalt. "I am putting it down," Kevin stated. Thompson lunged forward. He grabbed the thick cotton fabric of Kevin's gray sweatshirt at the left shoulder and pulled backward. Kevin's left hand slipped off the Pelican side handle. His right hand could not support the 65 pounds alone. The black plastic case fell. The Pelican hit the solid concrete sidewalk. From deep inside the locked case came the distinct, sharp sound of shattering glass. Thompson drove his right forearm into the center of Kevin's back, forcing him face first against the closed trunk lid of the Honda. "Stop resisting!" Thompson yelled. Kevin's chest was pinned against the silver trunk. He opened his hands and brought his wrists together behind his lower back. Thompson pulled his steel handcuffs from his leather pouch. He clamped the first bracelet over Kevin's right wrist, pressing the ratchets down. He grabbed the left wrist, pulled it tight, and secured the second bracelet. Thompson kept his left hand clamped onto the steel chain. He used his right hand to pat down the outside of Kevin's gray sweatshirt and canvas pants. He reached into Kevin's right front pocket and pulled out a set of car keys. He placed them on the trunk of the Honda. He reached into the back right pocket and pulled out a black leather bifold wallet. He slid the wallet into his own tactical cargo pocket. "You are under arrest," Thompson stated. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Kevin looked down at the concrete. The black Pelican case lay on its side, scuffed white where it had impacted the sidewalk. Officer Thompson gripped Kevin's left bicep, guided him to the rear door of the cruiser, and pushed down on his head. Kevin sat, his cuffed hands pressed against the backrest. "The latches are unlocked," Kevin said. "If it tips over, the glass will spill out." "Keep your mouth shut," Thompson replied. He closed the door. He walked back, grabbed the Pelican case, and lifted it. Inside, shattered optical glass scraped heavily against bent metal. He carried the case to the trunk, pushed it inside, and slammed the lid. Thompson got into the driver's seat. He pressed his shoulder radio. "Unit 4, transporting one male to the precinct. Run a check on a silver Honda, state plate Charlie 92 Delta." "Copy, Unit 4, the dispatcher answered. Thompson shifted into drive and pulled away from the curb. 2 blocks later, the radio clicked open. "Unit 4, plate returns valid. Registered owner is Kevin White. Clean record, no outstanding warrants. Thompson did not acknowledge the transmission. He looked in the rearview mirror. Kevin sat motionless in the back. Thompson kept driving. The cruiser turned into the alley behind the precinct and stopped. A sensor triggered, and the metal gate rolled upward. Thompson drove into the Sally Port. The door sealed behind them. Another patrol unit was parked in the bay. Officer Davis stood next to it, filling out a vehicle inspection log on a clipboard. Thompson parked and stepped out. He walked to the wall-mounted lockboxes, secured his 9mm weapon inside, and clipped the key to his belt. He walked to the rear of the cruiser and opened the trunk. He pulled the heavy Pelican case out. The broken glass shifted loudly inside the plastic shell. Davis looked up from his clipboard. "What's in the box, Thompson?" "Stolen property," Thompson said. Suspect resisted, dropped it himself during the collar. Davis nodded and went back to his paperwork. Thompson set the case on the concrete. He walked to the passenger side and opened the rear door. "Step out," Thompson ordered. Kevin stood up. "Grab the case," Thompson told Davis. "Bring it inside." Davis hooked his fingers under the Pelican's handle and lifted it. Thompson gripped Kevin's bicep and walked him through the security door into the booking room. Officer Davis set the black Pelican case on the stainless steel booking desk and walked back out to the Sally Port. Officer Thompson guided Kevin White to the desk. Sergeant Scott stopped typing at his terminal. "Charges?" Scott asked. "Grand larceny, resisting arrest," Thompson stated. "Refused to drop the stolen property." Thompson placed Kevin's wallet and car keys on the steel counter. Scott reached for the Pelican case. He flipped the 4 latches and opened the lid. He stopped. He did not touch the contents. "Property was damaged during the suspect's resistance," Thompson added. The booking room remained completely silent. Scott shut the lid. He picked up the wallet and pulled the driver's license from the front slot. He held the plastic card up, pausing as his eyes moved from the ID photo to Kevin. He pulled a folded document from the bill compartment and smoothed it flat against the desk. It was a Cine Rentals invoice. His eyes dropped directly to the bottom of the page. The insurance replacement value was printed in bold black text, $150,000. Scott set the paper down. "The silver Honda on 5th Avenue belongs to him?" Thompson shifted his weight. Dispatch confirmed the plate en route. Scott did not reply. He stepped out from behind the desk, walked behind Kevin, and inserted his key into the handcuffs. He unlocked both bracelets. Kevin brought his arms forward. He let them hang at his sides. "You are released," Scott said. "Take your property." "I am not leaving," Kevin said. "I want the watch commander out here. I need an official property damage voucher before I touch that case." Scott picked up the desk phone and dialed a 3-digit extension. "Watch commander to booking," Scott said. He hung up the phone. Lieutenant Harris pushed through the heavy steel door of the booking room. The door swung shut, cutting off the noise from the hallway. Sergeant Scott did not speak. He picked up the Cine Rentals invoice from the counter and handed it directly to the lieutenant. Harris held the paper. His eyes tracked down to the bottom of the page. He held his gaze on the total value for 3 full seconds. He lowered the document. He stepped up to the open Pelican case on the desk. He looked down at the contents. He did not touch the foam. He did not touch the metal. "The suspect resisted," Thompson said from the center of the room. "The property dropped during the collar." Harris did not turn his head. He did not acknowledge Thompson's voice. He kept his eyes fixed on the inside of the case. "Process the release," Harris told Scott. "I am not leaving," Kevin stated. Harris finally turned to look at him. "I need a signed property damage voucher," Kevin said, his voice level. "And I want his body-worn camera secured. Right now, before he docks it, before anyone handles that footage." The room went completely silent. Thompson shifted his stance, his leather duty belt creaking slightly. Harris looked at Kevin. Then he walked out from behind the stainless steel desk. He crossed the linoleum floor and stopped less than a foot away from Officer Thompson. Thompson stood rigid. His arms remained straight at his sides. Harris raised his right hand. He reached directly for the center of Thompson's uniform shirt. He gripped the black plastic housing of the Axon body camera. He pressed his thumb and index finger against the dual release tabs on the sides of the mount. The magnetic lock disengaged with a sharp snap. Harris pulled the device free from Thompson's chest. He did not say a single word to the patrolman. Harris walked back to the desk. He pulled a clear polyurethane evidence bag from the top drawer, dropped the Axon camera inside, and sealed the tamper evidence strip. He signed his initials across the plastic and set it next to the invoice. "Scott," Harris ordered, "bag the property, issue the voucher." Scott pulled down an oversized transparent property bag, slid the Pelican case inside, and sealed the adhesive flap. He opened the bound property ledger, rapidly filled the intake lines, wrote "one sealed case, damaged," and drove a heavy rubber stamp onto the bottom of the page. "Received." Scott tore the yellow carbon copy receipt from the binding and slid it across the steel counter. Kevin picked it up. He folded the receipt in half, slid it into his pocket, and walked out through the precinct doors. Kevin pushed through the glass doors of Cine Rentals. He placed the black Pelican case, still sealed inside the heavy NYPD evidence bag, onto the steel intake counter. He laid the yellow property voucher next to the red police seal. David Stern, the floor manager, walked over. He looked at the voucher and the initials signed across the plastic. "NYPD," Kevin stated. The officer dropped the case on the concrete during a detainment. David picked up the voucher and read the signature of Lieutenant Harris. He reached for the radio on his belt. "Marcus, bring the documentation rig to the front desk," David said. "I need an unboxing recorded for the underwriter. We have a sealed police return." Marcus, the senior technician, walked out of the back room carrying a camera mounted to a tripod. He locked the legs, framed the lens on the sealed bag, and pressed the record button. The red tally light illuminated. "Date is April 14th, David dictated for the camera. "Opening NYPD sealed property. Voucher number 4482. Client is Kevin White." Marcus pulled a utility knife and sliced through the thick polyurethane bag. He flipped the 4 latches of the Pelican case and lifted the lid. He put on a pair of black nitrile gloves. Marcus reached in and pulled out the 32mm Cook Pantro. He gripped the geared focus ring and applied pressure. His knuckles turned white, but the metal did not rotate. "The focus helicoid is seized," Marcus said to the camera. He set the 32mm down and lifted the 75mm lens. As he moved it, shards of optical glass fell from the rear element and landed on the steel counter with a sharp clatter. "Rear glass is shattered," Marcus dictated. He looked at David. "The mechanics are crushed. It's a total loss." David picked up the yellow voucher and walked into his glass-walled office. He pulled a commercial insurance binder from his cabinet, picked up his desk phone, and dialed a toll-free number. "Mutual Corporate Insurance Claims Department," a voice answered. "This is David Stern from Cine Rentals, policy 884-Delta, David said. "I am initiating a total loss claim for $150,000. "Cause of loss?" the agent asked. "Police misconduct," David replied. "I have a signed NYPD property damage voucher and a documented evidence chain." The line went silent for 2 seconds. The sound of rapid typing came through the receiver. "Do not touch the equipment," the agent instructed. "We are dispatching a corporate investigator to the precinct immediately. We will handle the subrogation with the city." David hung up the phone. At 2 p.m., a man in a charcoal suit walked through the glass doors of the precinct. He carried a slim black leather briefcase. He stopped at the heavy wooden front desk. Officer Brooks looked up from a clipboard. "I am here to serve a legal notice to the watch commander regarding Officer Brian Thompson," the man stated. He placed a business card on the ledge. "My name is Crane. I represent Mutual Corporate Insurance." Brooks picked up the internal phone, spoke briefly, and hung up. 5 minutes later, Lieutenant Harris walked into the lobby. Crane opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. "Lieutenant Harris," Crane said, "I am serving you with a formal letter of spoliation of evidence." Harris took the folder and scanned the first page. "This letter puts the NYPD on notice," Crane stated. "It specifically prohibits any editing or deletion of the body-worn camera footage from this morning. We are also requiring the preservation of all radio transmission logs." Harris turned the page. "Additionally," Crane continued, "my client has been paid the full replacement value of $150,000. We are notifying the city of a subrogation claim. My company is now the primary party seeking that money from the city." Crane reached into his briefcase and pulled out a high-resolution digital camera. "I need to photograph the evidence bags," Crane said. "I need to verify the serial numbers and the integrity of the seals on the camera and the equipment case." Harris looked at the document, then at the camera. "I can't let you into the secure area," Harris said. "Paragraph 4, Crane said calmly. "Failure to allow inspection of the storage conditions after service of this letter constitutes a separate cause of action for the destruction of evidence. I am here to verify the chain of custody remains intact." Harris gripped the folder. He looked toward the internal door. "Wait here," Harris said. Harris walked back through the doors. Crane remained in the lobby. He did not sit down. He took out a tablet and began documenting the exact time of service. 10 minutes later, Harris returned and opened the security gate. "Follow me," Harris said. "Photos of the bags only, no touching." Crane stepped through the gate. He followed Harris down the hallway toward the secure lockers. Officer Brian Thompson sat in a windowless room on the 4th floor of the precinct. A metal table was bolted to the floor between him and 2 chairs. The heavy door opened. Detective Burke and Detective Cross walked in. Burke carried a thin blue folder. Cross carried a digital audio recorder. Cross placed the recorder on the table and pressed the red button. "Interview of Officer Brian Thompson regarding case number 9928, Cross stated. "Present are Detective Burke and Detective Cross. "Officer, you have been advised of your rights under the Administrative Investigation Protocol." Thompson nodded. Burke opened the blue folder and slid a single sheet of paper across the table. It was the $150,000 claim from Mutual Corporate Insurance. "This arrived 2 hours ago," Burke said, "along with a letter of spoliation. The insurance company already paid the claim. Now they are coming after the city for the full amount." Thompson looked at the number on the paper. "The suspect resisted. I used the necessary force to secure the scene." "We reviewed the body cam footage, Brian," Cross said. "The footage Lieutenant Harris pulled from your chest before you could dock it." Cross leaned forward. "The footage shows the suspect holding a heavy case. He tells you twice it is fragile cinema glass. He tells you he is putting it down. He starts to squat. You lunged and pulled him backward. You didn't give him the chance to comply." "He was a suspicious person in a high theft area," Thompson replied. "He had a press credential around his neck," Burke interrupted. "You never looked at it. You didn't even check his ID until he was in handcuffs. You ignored every indicator of a legal professional presence." Burke pulled a second document from the folder and placed it on top of the insurance claim. "This is a formal notice of non-indemnification," Burke stated. Thompson reached for the paper. "It means the city's law department has reviewed the video," Burke continued. "They have determined that your actions were outside the scope of employment and constituted gross negligence. The city will not represent you in the upcoming civil suit. You are on your own." The room went silent. The small red light on the recorder flickered. "And the insurance company?" Thompson asked. "They aren't just suing the city," Cross said. "They are naming you personally in the subrogation filing. They want their $150,000 back. If the city pays them, the city will sue you to recover it." Burke stood up. "Effective immediately, you are suspended without pay," Burke said. "Hand it over." Thompson stood up. He reached for his waist. He unclipped his radio and set it on the metal table. He unbuckled his heavy leather duty belt. The handcuffs, the extra magazines, and the empty holster clattered onto the table as a single unit. He reached for his shirt pocket. He unpinned the silver shield. He placed the badge on top of the belt. Burke picked up the badge and the belt. "Clear out your locker," Burke said. "Use the back exit." The detectives walked out. Thompson remained in the room, looking at the $150,000 claim on the table. Kevin sat in a high-backed chair in an office overlooking the municipal courthouse. Counselor Elias sat across from him. A heavy blue-backed legal folder lay on the desk. "The insurance company's subrogation is separate," Elias stated. "That's their money. This is yours." Elias opened the folder. He pointed to the first page of the summons and complaint. "Federal Court, Section 1983, Civil Rights Violation," Elias said. "False arrest, unlawful imprisonment, and deprivation of property under color of law." He flipped to the final page. He pointed to the prayer for relief. The figure was typed in a clear, fixed-width font, $1 million. "The city will try to settle for the insurance deductible," Elias said. "We aren't taking it. We have the body cam footage of the lieutenant stripping the officer's camera. That's our leverage. It proves the department knew they had a liability within 20 minutes of the arrest." Elias stood up and grabbed his briefcase. "Let's go. The clerk's office closes at 5. They walked 2 blocks to the City Hall annex. They passed through the metal detectors and took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The city clerk's counter was a long slab of gray marble behind a wall of reinforced glass. Elias slid the blue-backed folder through the narrow metal tray at the bottom. "Filing a notice of claim against the city and Officer Brian Thompson," Elias told the clerk. The clerk did not look up. She checked the signature on the verification page. She picked up a heavy, mechanical time-stamping machine. She slid the corner of the original document into the slot. The machine made a loud, metallic thwack. The clock mechanism advanced. She repeated the action on 2 copies. The clerk slid the copies back through the tray. The red ink on the top page was still wet. Filed. April 14th, 2026, 4:42 p.m. "You're served," Elias said. Kevin took his copy. He walked out of the building and onto the street. Kevin sat in a conference room on the 12th floor of the city's law department. Counselor Elias sat to his left. Opposite them sat Myers, a senior attorney for the city, and a representative from the comptroller's office. A 65-inch monitor was mounted to the wall. "We have reviewed the evidence," Myers stated. He pressed a button on a remote. The footage from Officer Thompson's body-worn camera filled the screen. The timestamp in the upper right corner read 10:14:22 a.m. Myers tapped a key. The video slowed to 25% speed. On the screen, Kevin began to squat. His hands moved toward the pavement. The Pelican case was 4 inches from the ground. Thompson's hand appeared in the frame, gripping Kevin's collar and jerking him upward and backward. The case hit the concrete corner first. The audio picked up a sharp, metallic crack, followed by the sound of shifting glass. "The audio is clear," Elias said. "The suspect says, 'I am putting it down,' 3 seconds before the officer makes physical contact." Myers turned off the monitor. "The city is not going to trial on a Section 1983 claim with this footage," Myers said. "The officer's actions have been classified as a Category 2 policy violation. We have already settled the subrogation claim with Mutual Corporate Insurance for the full $150,000. Myers slid a 3-page document across the table. "This is a general release," Myers stated. "The City of New York offers a settlement of $850,000. This is inclusive of all legal fees and costs." Elias looked at the document. He looked at Kevin. "The figure is firm," Myers added. "If we go to a jury, we will argue mitigation based on the high crime statistics of that precinct, but we would rather close the file today." Elias leaned toward Kevin. "With the insurance payout already handled, This brings the total city expenditure to $1 million. This is the top of the bracket for a non-injury false arrest. Kevin picked up a silver pen from the table. He turned to the third page. He signed his name on the line marked claimant. Elias signed as witness. "We will process the check within 30 days, Myers said. He stood up and gathered his folders. Officer Thompson's union-provided counsel has been notified that the city will be seeking a judgment against his personal pension contributions to recover a portion of the insurance payout." Myers walked out of the room. The representative from the comptroller's office took the signed release, placed it in a briefcase, and followed him. Kevin and Elias remained in the room. "It's over," Elias said. Kevin stood up. He walked to the window and looked down at the street. He saw a silver Honda parked at a meter 3 blocks away. "I have a shoot tomorrow," Kevin said. "I need to pick up the replacement set from Cine Rentals." Kevin walked out of the conference room and headed for the elevators. Kevin parked the silver Honda in the loading zone in front of Cine Rentals. He walked through the glass doors and approached the intake counter. David Stern was standing behind the desk. A brand new silver latch Pelican case sat on the counter. "The new set arrived this morning," David said. "Factory fresh from the UK. Serial numbers are registered to the new policy." Kevin flipped the latches. 5 Cook Pantro lenses sat in the precision-cut foam. The metal housings were matte black, free of scuffs or dust. Kevin picked up the 50mm. He gripped the focus ring. It rotated with a smooth, damped resistance. "Insurance covered the expedited shipping," David added. "The adjuster closed the file on our end yesterday." Kevin closed the case and secured the latches. He tapped his smartphone against the payment terminal to cover the new rental deposit. He carried the case out to the Honda, placed it in the trunk, and drove away. At 6 p.m., Kevin sat in his home office. He opened a browser tab and logged into his bank account. The transaction list showed a pending wire transfer. The sender was listed as NYC Comptroller, Legal Settlement. The amount was $850,000. He closed the laptop. 3 miles away, Brian Thompson stood in the kitchen of a 2-bedroom apartment. He was wearing a plain gray t-shirt and jeans. A thick envelope from a private law firm sat on the table. It contained a summons for a civil subrogation lawsuit. The insurance company was seeking a personal judgment for the $150,000 payout, citing his decertification by the NYPD. Thompson picked up a black marker. He crossed out his name on a pile of unopened mail. He walked to the window. In the parking lot below, his personal vehicle sat with a "For Sale" sign taped to the inside of the rear window. The sun set over the city. The next morning, at 5:30 a.m., Kevin White stood on a sidewalk in Lower Manhattan. He locked a 35mm lens into the PL mount of a cinema camera. He looked through the monitor. The image was sharp. The focus was clear. Kevin pressed the red button. The internal fans whirred. The counter began to move. "Action," Kevin said. Kevin called action with a new set of lenses and $850,000 in the bank. Thompson is sitting in a silent kitchen, staring at a $150,000 personal judgment, learning the hard way that the system doesn't protect you when you go off script. It just recovers its losses. Drop a like, hit subscribe, and tell me in the comments. At what exact second did the lieutenant decide to sacrifice his own officer? I'll see you in the next one.
This incident file is closed. For more objective footage breakdowns, please like and subscribe. Thank you for supporting Bodycam Incident Reports.